Hey guys, I'm back today to talk about thread. One of my readers asked me, how do you save money on thread? And I don't have a magic answer for you on this one, unfortunately, but I have a couple tips that may help you in saving a little bit of money when it comes to sewing costs, since it does add up. One of my tips would be to use gray thread. You would be surprised how many times I use gray in my projects. It's a great neutral. It tends to blend in well with a lot of different fabric choices. And I often will just thread my machine, like a serger or my regular sewing machine, using gray thread, or at least using gray thread in the bottom threads of things or in my bobbin. And usually it's a great substitute. So when you see those sales like buy one get one free, stock up on that gray thread. You may be surprised how often you can use it. Another tip I would say is if you do own a serger and you want to cut down your costs, because that tends to be more expensive thread, however, it also lasts a really long time. You're talking about thousands of yards on those spools. You can use what's called a 3-thread narrow stitch, and that's only going to use 3 spools of thread on the top rather than 4, so a little bit of cost savings there. I have used in a pinch some of my regular spools of thread for my serger, but typically I don't do that. I'm sure there's DIYs out there on how you can use different things or wind a bobbin and use it and all that. I'm just not an expert on it, so I can't really speak to it. But I always don't match the color of what I'm sewing to my threads. In fact, here's a top that I was just working on, and you can see I have white in here with red, and then I went to a different project and I did change it to a darker one, and I left the darker one in there for the red. I don't own any of the red serger thread, and really to me it's not a huge deal. If it really bothers you, then you're going to be spending a little bit more money stocking up on all those different colors. My last tip would just be to make sure that when you do buy thread, you're buying thread that you really like and that's going to last. Years ago, I purchased some sort of kit that was recommended by a blogger on one of those group deal sites, and it has been the worst thread ever. I truly can't stand it. I still have spools up here. I don't know why. I guess I could hand sew with it or let my kids do some sort of projects with it, but my machine hates it. It eats up everything, and every time I use it, it just makes me want to curse. So it's really not recommended. Don't buy cheap thread. The thread I personally like, and that you'll probably see the most of up behind me, are 2 different brands here. I usually use this dual duty, I think it's Coats and Clark, right? I hope so. I believe so. And then the other one, I'm probably going to say it wrong, Gutermann. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Hey, I'm German. I should know these things. But this one is a little bit more expensive, but I do love it. I use it for most projects. So watch for your sales at like Joann's when it's buy one, get one free on thread, and stock up on the basics. If you looked at my thread spools, you'll see I have a lot of the black, the navy, the white, the gray. Those are kind of the colors that I stock up on. And then, you know, if I have a special project that I'm working on that I need to match the thread color, then I'll buy that specific one. But otherwise, I'm not crazy about a perfect match, and especially on my bobbin thread. And some people would argue that having a slightly different color in your bobbin thread would actually be the way to go, because if you need to remove your stitches, it makes removal much easier when you're picking out those threads. You can see the difference. And again, I'm not talking about like a black thread on a white shirt, because that's not going to give you very good results. But if it's slightly different in color, or that gray color on something, then it might be a little bit easier for you to see and pick those out. So I'm sorry I don't have the best answer to this question, but if you figure out better ways to save money on thread, please let me know. A side note, if you pick up a lot from garage sales or thrift stores, as pretty as they are, I recommend them for decoration. In fact, I have some up there in a little glass jar, but they're decorative for me because threads do wear out over time if they were exposed to sun, if they could have come from a home that just wasn't well cared for, or whatever reason, they're old. They can wear out and don't work always well for your projects. So I've also heard people say that they've never had problem with old thread. So really, I would say that one's up to you, but that's just my advice. There are sites like Wawak is one that has some good deals on thread. You do have to pay shipping. I got a lot of these spools that are in the background, that Maxi-Lock stretch thread, which I should mention that for my favorite thread for the serger. I do use it on both wovens and knits, and I haven't had a problem. But this thread is really soft. It's like yarn. The one downside is it can be a little bit staticky and a little bit harder to thread your machine, but I still think it's a great product. And I bought a lot of mine on clearance on the Walmart website. So look, sometimes they have these off colors that you can find for cheaper. So I hope this information was helpful, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Happy sewing!